Hello everyone and welcome. Today we're going to be doing a gen run, but I wanted to talk about a couple of the updates we just got today. So now it seems like in mine challenges you'll be able to reuse your Evo types, which is something I've really been waiting on to start working on the mine challenges. So I felt like it was really an issue where you could never practice the bosses very well. If you're dying to them, you're probably dying to them towards the beginning of the runs, just from not knowing the patterns. And it just doesn't give you a whole lot of time to practice them without having to go into a whole nother run. Especially with once you start getting into the hard mode bosses towards like the last row, they start to deal a lot of damage, so it was becoming an issue. And then some of the bosses, like I think it's called, like, I don't know what it's called. It's the mechanical one that has two different bosses that floats up in the air. That one you can't even practice in normal runs unless you just happen to get it in Omega Sector. So I'm really glad they changed that, and I'll probably show off mine challenges sometime in the future. The other major thing that got updated is that some of the tactics now apply automatically instead of having to press the summon button for it. And I'm hoping the visual indication effects when enemies are out of sight show up a lot quicker now than they did before, because it says they were enhanced. The rest of the stuff is just bug fixes. I don't think there's anything too notable in here. I never noticed any abnormal MP consumption for Jen's potentials, so I'm curious what that was. And I've been playing him over the past couple of days, though it's not like I sit there and look at my MP cost the entire run, so it's definitely something I could have just not noticed. Today I'm going to be running Holy and Electric build, so I'm taking Electric Tactics rates, and then anything else can probably be like changed around. The MP plus 40 is going to be nice for having more counters at the end for Susano, and then for proccing the Holy Spears more often as well. Now I'm going to change my HP settings. Most of my runs have always been on 90 or 120%, which are like the two maxed out ones. But I've kind of come to realize that I'm forcing characters into very specific playstyles, and same with tactics. I'm really forcing the tactics that I want to use in those kind of runs, just because the HP is so high and the time limit is so low that I kind of have to make the game a DPS check in order to get through it. So I'll probably try to do a mix of the two, where sometimes I run on higher settings and sometimes I don't. It's just going to depend on what I want to show off. For this one, I want to show off a fun build with the Light Spears. You can do this on any character, but I like doing it on Jen, and we'll see why as I start getting some of my potentials. So I'm taking Skill Light Spear with Multi Light Spear, and then a red effect for Light Spear Thunderbolt, which makes it where every time the Thunderbolts or the Light Spears land on the ground, they'll also summon Thunderbolts. It does quite a bit of damage, and it's good for clearing out rooms. We'll see it here in just a second. So right there you can already see the damage it does, and then the enhancement of having the lightning works really well with the light spears, because the light spears will clear out everything on the ground floor, and then the thunderbolts cleared out the enemy that was up on the top floor. There's a couple different potentials you can put with this to make it work a lot more efficiently. Hopefully I can get one of them. Okay, here's one of them. So now Jin has this unique mechanic where if you press attack and skill button at the same time, it costs 25 MP to upgrade your move. There's a lot of different types of upgraded moves. It works off of pretty much any of his attacks, just his basic attacks. It won't work off of skills and other potentials unless you get specific potential synergies for it. And it'll always say on the skill, like, for his down and attack combo, for example, there's another potential that specifically says you can now do the enhanced version of it. So since this enhanced version is costing MP, it does count towards proccing the light spears, and it only costs 35 or 25 MP rather than having to use my entire 100 MP bar for it. It just lets me proc the light spears a lot more often than I could on some other characters. There's definitely plenty of characters that have low MP options. I've just been having fun using it on Jin because I'm using the enhanced attacks naturally pretty often anyways. Okay, so here's the other unique mechanic with Jin right off the bat. The offensive moves you make upon sheathing are upgraded. Every time you do an attack, you'll see that he sheaths his sword at the end of it, and there's like a flash of light. That's to help show you an indication for the timing window. If you do this at the right time, you get enhanced versions of your attack, which do a lot more damage. They usually have some more range as well. The one that I usually use is, I do a slash in midair, and then I do the MP enhanced move, while also getting that unsheathing timing. Those two buffs will stack on top of each other to give you some really hard-hitting moves. So here you can see the enhanced attacks are doing 1,000 on their own already, and that's without even having really any damage modifiers on them. I didn't necessarily mean to get the Umbra there, I hit the button too quickly when the menu came up. Sometimes I do that, and I think I was just, like, practicing inputs for certain things, or something like that, but it's not a big deal. The black hole is always nice to have anyways. So one other thing that I also picked up during one of these stages is that I unlocked my Thunderbolt on Dash, which unlocked one of the legacy things I took, which makes it where anytime a Thunderbolt strikes, it has a chance to strike a second time. This also stacks with the Holy Spear Thunderbolts. So if I get lucky, I can have a lot of Thunderbolt strikes stacked on do one cast, basically. Oops. I always really underestimate this boss's range. And I also wasn't really accounting for the fact that my attack was gonna push me forward. If you ever have Jin Legacy, or you're playing Jin right there, you can get a really easy dodge on the boss's, like, falling attack by just dodging into the flame pillar there. It works with any of his other attacks as well. The flame pillars are just really easy to get a dodge off of. I could take ice here, but I'm gonna try not to use any ice for this video. Just because it's been featured in so many other ones. The other thing about the 120 and 90% HP runs is that you're way more incentivized to stack all of your upgrades into one damaging move to get the most out of the damage for it. And then that gets kind of like compounded by having Frost either be heavily buffing your skills or your attacks. It just makes it even more so that you want to stack everything onto one move. There you could see a really nice situation where all but one of the lightning strikes that my Holy Spears called down hit a second time. Right now it's not really doing a lot, just because everything is pretty much dying to the spears themselves, but it'll scale well into later parts. I guess I'll go ahead and pick up the blocking stance is really nice for boss fights, in particular for Susano, so I'll go ahead and pick it up now. I want to try to unlock the lightning orbs too during the run, so I can try out the new automatic version of them. I also took Lambdas as a legacy character, specifically to get the passive, where she gets more, or where I get more MP back if I knock down enemies. That one's kind of a weird passive. I think they could do some work on it. You have to knock enemies like a certain height into the air for it to count as getting MP back. So if I just do like a regular swing like this, you see I don't get any MP back. But there's really weird cases where things do knock down enemies, and you do get MP back for it, even though they're not going in the air. It's really strange. It's just the passive seems to work very inconsistently in general. I swear I always get the perfect clear on combat spaces when I'm recording. Okay, so now the lightning orbs just turn on as soon as I get close to an enemy. Kinda sucks that I had some lightning orb red tactics set up for a Hibiki build, but I kind of threw it away because I just wasn't getting enough damage out of it in the high entropy settings, and I really needed extra slots for some other builds that I was working on. I really think we need more legacy slots, like really badly. I'm tempted to do this, but I have to be careful with how much MP I take away from myself, because I'm not getting basically any healing back because of the entropy settings. 25% HP back from the rest area is a very small amount. killing these early bosses a little quicker than I'd like to. But the problem is how the HP scales over the duration of the run. Particularly how the HP scales at Susano. And even more so when you put in the third phase of Susano. It gets to the point where Susano has like 300,000 to 600,000 HP. And it's just some potentials and tactics can't keep up with that kind of HP. It gets to the point of where if you have the timer on, then it's either going to be a DPS check or you're going to hit a long string of time where you just have to perfect clear the boss because your HP is drained from the timer. I think one thing they really need to do is have Omega Sector always give you an extra amount of time compared to other stages, because it's usually going to take you somewhere around a minute. It really depends on the layout of Omega Sector too. That's another one of the big issues. If you get a bad Omega Sector time, or a bad Omega Sector layout, you have much less time to kill Susano. And if you're going into the Susano sector with like 4 minutes or 5 minutes, it leaves you like 4 to 3 minutes to kill Susano, and that's dealing 200,000 HP per minute in order to clear out all 3 of his phases. So I think the fight feels good. The fight with him feels good most of the time. It's just they don't give you the amount of time you need to clear out both Omega Sector and the 3 phases. So I want to pick up the Thunderbolt upgrade as well, because every upgrade I get to Thunderbolts will also affect the Light Spear version of them. So yeah, I think rather than like nerfing Susano's HP pool, it's a much better option to just increase the amount of time that you get at Omega Sector compared to other stages. Because you really can't compare Omega Sector, where you have a layout where your time is constantly ticking down, to the rest of the stages, where if you go into like an event stage, your timer isn't wasted for that stage count. I want to be grabbing all of the universal enhancement as well. Well, I don't really care about the third one too much. It's mostly the first and second that I want, where all moves can slow, and then with the second one on top of that, all moves will be able to slow and freeze. That helps out a lot with the boss fights. I'm not sure how worth taking the 8 extra HP there is, but I think it's fine. The main issue is it's just hard to actually heal back HP, but if I do manage to heal it back, that extra bit of HP could make a difference in the boss fight. I might actually pick up a little bit more HP as well. Yeah, why not? That'll just give me a little bit of a safety net for some of the boss fights. Oops. I tried to dash there, but I just didn't time it right. The nice thing about buying the max HPs is that it heals back that 20 HP, or that 20% HP that I gained. It doesn't just add the HP onto my HP pool without adjusting my current HP. Hopefully that makes sense. If I can ever get a big boss like Arakune in a corner like that, I deal a lot of damage with the spears and the thunderbolts because they kind of stack up onto the corner. Some of them will hit the bottom of the stage, and some of them will hit the walls, like you could just see there. Hopefully I can get chain lightning attacks because it'll give me another red effect with my lightning orbs. So another one of Jin's unique things that he can do is the potential that I just grabbed there. It says that something along the lines of when you dash, you ride icicles. It does a surprising amount of damage for some reason. I'll try to show it off. 600 damage per hit just from dashing into enemies. And then it's calling down the lightning from my dashes as I do that as well. So it'll be nice just for some extra damage, and it gives me a faster movement option as well. These rooms can be really annoying with the wolf things that summon thunder. If you don't take them out first, they'll just keep summoning them on you while you're trying to kill other things. Alright, so I think... Oh, no, I needed to max out Lightning Chain instead of Lightning Orb. That's weird. It feels like it should be the other way around, but maybe not. Oh well, I'm not really that worried about the red effect for it. It's one of the ones that I tried out before, and it felt strong in early rooms, but it just didn't scale well. That's the main issue with tactics too, is just things not scaling into the later parts of the game well enough. I don't know if the damage upgrades you get from having potentials counts as like upgrading your tactics damage or not. If it doesn't, that could be one thing they could add to maybe make some of the tactics scale better. Do the enemies have armor here? Something feels weird with them not staggering. I think another thing that they could do to make a lot of the tactics feel better too is have more ascensions that are like this, where instead of just the orbs dealing more damage, this makes it where they last longer. It's more of a it's more of an upgrade you can feel in your gameplay changing rather than just it dealing more damage. No, they don't have any super armor. I need to watch out for the damage, though. Okay, good. I got rid of damage taken and butterflies, so that's the two main ones I was worried about. 50% damage taken is really huge, especially when I'm already running at, like, I think 100% damage taken from Entropy. So the unsheathing stuff isn't something you have to constantly worry about as Jin. It's more of something for like the boss fights and getting the most damage out of specific hits. You can use it just during your basic combos as well, but you usually don't need that much damage for the regular enemies. So if you're worried about playing Jin and not wanting to do all the timing attack stuff, it's not a necessity. There's some builds that don't use it too. There's always a lot of different ways to find to play each character. If the way that someone plays a character doesn't look interesting to you, I would never discount a character in this game just based on the way one person plays it. The game has a lot of flexibility to it. That's why it was kind of a shame that I was forcing things into dealing high damage so much. Like, if you saw the last Hibiki video that I did before this one, that's what really made me start thinking about it. I would have never played Hibiki that way, just sitting there holding down the B button, or the skill button for Endless Lace, if I didn't feel forced to get a lot of DPS out of the run. Depends a lot on the character as well. Like with Lambda and Ragna, I don't really feel like I'm really forcing the builds too much, but when I did it with Hibiki and when I was trying to do it with some Jin builds, that's when I really started to feel it. I was like forcing them into playstyles that I wouldn't normally use. Or like with this Jin build, I really wanted to show this tactic setup, but it was working well until Susano. And then at Susano, it wasn't really working too well, unless I had also added in frost attacks and something to proc that. Jin with frost attacks is pretty funny, or even just the chain lightning attacks, because you're, just a second. Your icicles that you ride on when you do the dash attacks count as proccing the ice or the lightning. So I never actually got it, but the other potential you could look for early on is the one where your regular skill has a halved MP cost. That'll also let you proc the spears really easily without running out of MP. You can also do blink builds. There's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of builds you can do in the game, as long as you're not really forcing the entropy settings too high in terms of timer and enemy HP specifically. I'm gonna pick up the other enhancement though, so now all of my abilities can freeze. The only thing on Jin I wouldn't really recommend picking up is his SP skill. You can definitely get it if you want, but it feels pretty bad to me. The damage it does is low, and unless you're having the universal potentials where everything can freeze, it really hurts the speed of even building it up in the first place. I think what they should do to buff it is not just give it a bunch of damage, but have it so it still does like a low amount of damage to a mid amount of damage, and then make it where it freezes enemies for a couple seconds after the animation ends. That way, he still kind of has his own uniqueness to his playstyle and his SP skill, where he freezes enemies. I think they should do that with a couple of the SP skills in general, is buff them in a way where they give really good utility or stage clearing, as opposed to just having every SP skill do a lot of burst damage. So there's a couple of them in the game that just don't really feel like they're worth the DPS of casting. It's just you can do more damage by using your regular skills in the time it would take for the SP skill to go off. Though one benefit the SP skills will always have is the invincibility frames you get during them. So they'll never strictly be useless. So here's kind of what I was talking about with the Omega sector and the timer. I got here around a little over 5 minutes. I think it was around 5.5. And this was even a really good layout where I didn't have to travel far to get to him. And I'm already down to 4 minutes. So if I came in here without extra time, I would have around 3 minutes to clear Susano. I don't think the HP boost applies to bosses, but I'll maybe get rid of it anyways. I wanted to get rid of the legacy recovery anyways, so it's fine that it worked out that way. And then I'll just pick up some extra MP. Give me a little more MP to work with. I wonder what time I'm at. 16 minutes of in-game time isn't too bad. I found a real good way to deal with boss damage as Jin yet. Aside from going... there's an attack where you hold down the skill button to charge... or you hold down the attack button to charge up an attack. And that one, you can either upgrade to be skill damage or attack damage. And it works really well with Frost because it hits a bunch of times. But that would be basically me doing the exact same thing as I did with the Hibiki video. It's just pouring everything into that move and spamming only it on the boss fights. I completely forgot I had my counter. Try to show that off. Works exactly the same as Hakumen's counter if you played him. If not, you just press down B and or down plus skill. You can press the attack button too if you want to use the blink without having to counter anything, but it will cost more MP that way. Icicle dashes are surprisingly good for bossing too. I think there's actually a glitch. Yeah, I'm gonna stop. There's a glitch with Susano where you can just stun lock him like that. I tried to block there a couple times and it just didn't feel like it was going off. Maybe I'm spending too much MP, and that's why I might just be mistiming it too. Normally my block timings are way better than that, but I just completely screwed it up in that fight. Oh well. I guess I'll go ahead and try and turn this into a lightning orb character. Maybe I'll show the Hibiki build with it. Ah, 19 minutes isn't too bad. A lot of it depends on how many combat rooms you take too, and not... If you take event rooms, as many in like event and potential, or not... If you take a bunch of rooms like events and shops and rests, your in-game timer will be way lower, because that's a free stage where time isn't ticking down at all. Anyways, that'll be it for this one. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.